Hello and welcome to another JNMG video. I'm your host JonNario, and today I will be doing the last build, the Uber 10 Leviathan build, or whatever you want to call it. And yeah, I will just be showcasing my stat right now on screen. I will be making this video as fast as possible, but at the same time, no promises because I do talk a lot. So a couple of things that I'll mention. First and foremost, like always, this is my build. This is not like the most optimal build, so you can just copy it or do whatever you want. I just have it right here, and if you want to copy it yourself, you can just copy it yourself. You feel free to do so. Also, I already did a speed run and Uber 10 build, that regular Uber 10 grinding, like dungeon grinding build already. So if you want to go ahead and check it out, those two links will be in the description below. Also, one more thing to keep in note is going to be that in this video, like in the previous video, I will not be explaining a whole lot regarding the gem rolls. So gem rolls, I will not be overly explaining how you should put the gems right here and there. Again, like I mentioned, these are my builds. So if you want to copy it yourself, then you're feel free to do so. But if you want to know how the gem rolls work, go into the Uber 10 video. The Uber 10 video, I did explain how the gem rolls work. How does the level 5, 10, 15 work, the type of gem that you should be looking for if you want the most DPS possible, yada yada yada. So yeah, link in the description for that video. That video is much more important if you want to know how to build your character for Uber 10 dungeon grinding and gems in general. So yeah, that is everything regarding the intro and my stats. So you're seeing right now on screen. Now let's start moving on with the empower gems, lesser gems, cosmic gem, and power gem ability. Then I'll explain the tactic, like the anchoring tactic for Uber 10 for those who may be struggling a little bit. And also then I will be going into gear, and that will be the end of the video. So let's start off with the empower gems, the fire, water, and air. I have a 2 magic damage roll, 1 critical damage roll across all of my empower gems, like the normal empower gems. The reason being is that this character had a lot of magic damage roll, and I decided to swap a little bit, little by little. So this is the reason I have more magic damage roll with this character, because I do get a lot of magic damage roll with my, my magic damage character. So yes, I do have a lot of magic damage roll across my fire, water, and air empower gems. But my lesser gems are going to be perfectly divided half and half. But before I go into the lesser gems, you are seeing right now, maximum health on one of my stats is because the Ice Age does gain critical hit on level up. So yes, I am allowed to use maximum health on one of my gems and still use critical hit on weapon and achieve 100% critical hit. And yeah, that's the reason I'm using this. So yes, I do have maximum health roll right over here. And yeah, let's move on into lesser gems. Lesser gems, I have a 2 critical damage, 1 magic damage across both of my water gems. So both of my water gems have 2 critical damage roll, 1 magic damage roll. And I actually did fix that with both of my air gems. My air gems, it is a 2 magic damage roll, 1 critical damage roll. So I have a perfectly divided half and half on my air gem and water gems. That is 2 with 2 magic, 1 crit. And that is 2 with 2 crit, 1 magic. So yeah, perfectly divided half and half around there. And then move on into my fire gem, which is going to be 2 critical damage, 1 magic damage, 2 magic damage, 1 critical damage. So again, like the Uber 10 build, it is exactly the same. The only difference between this one and the Uber 10 build is the empower gems, that I have more damage and critical damage. So yeah, it is almost the same as the Uber 10 build. So yes, as it is almost the same as the Uber 10 build. Light. You want to have as much light as possible. Leviathan is Geo Topside, so Geo Topside, it is going to be light. Light is going to be more beneficial. It is even more beneficial than the Uber 10 build, because Uber 10 you can use 2 light rolls and 1 damage roll and still do well. But if you want to dish out as much damage as possible, then obviously 3 light rolls on Uber 10 is much better. But in Leviathan you want to have as much light as possible, like 110%. You want light. Light. That is the most important thing, because Leviathans are extremely tanky and they take like very little amount of damage. So light will increase your damage by even a smidge amount, and that's going to be an increase of damage just by exponentially. And yeah, trust me, get as much light as possible with your gems. That is the most important stat for Leviathans. Alright, so speaking of light being the most important stats, that is the reason that you should be using Berserk Battler. Berserk Battler will increase your attack speed and light, if you're seeing right over here, on both Frenzy and Berserk state. Frenzy state will increase your light by 250, which is the equivalent of the Uber 8 daily torch. So it is not bad just by hitting the enemy once. And if you hit the enemy 11 times within 3 seconds, you will go into Berserk state, which will grant you 750 light. That's a total 750 light, so that's a plus 500 on top of the 250 from the Frenzy state. So you will get 750 light if you're in Berserk state, which is the equivalent of having the Uber 10 daily torch, which is insane, by the way. And yeah, Berserk Battler is going to be a no-brainer for any character that you should be using for, Leviathans. So Berserk Battler is going to be the most important gem, and also, the class gem for most characters. And yeah, that's pretty much the two most important ones. The other one I have Pirates, but you can use whichever you want right over here. Stinging Curse, whatever you might. So it's Pirates, so yeah, it's whatever. It does help out with the Uber 9 Leviathan because it does spawn minions, so yeah, why not use the Pirates so I can dish out extra damage on the Uber 9 Leviathan. But this one is actually pretty important for me specifically because I do volunteer a lot for the anchoring tactic. And for those who don't know what is the anchoring tactic, I will try to put some footage on screen. So the anchoring tactic is going to be a tactic that a lot of people use for Uber 10 Leviathans only, because the Uber 10 Leviathans are pretty difficult. Well, not difficult, it's more that they're extremely tanky and they can one-shot immediately. And we just use the anchoring tactic, which is just one player on the place that you're seeing me just standing still and shooting straight down, because if you don't know how Curse Call works, if you are the person who activated the Curse Call, the enemies will aggro towards the person that activated the Curse Call. So since if you're the person anchoring, you should be standing where I'm standing and activated the Curse Call right over there, and you're going to see that the Leviathan will close in into you and just stand below you. That allows you to not only shoot the Leviathan, be free of risk, because you will not take any risk because the Leviathan will not be able to reach with the one shot. And not only that, it means that all of the other players are allowed to just go ham with the DPS and just keep spamming flash, respawning, and then joining back on the person who's anchoring, because the person who's anchoring should never respawn or should never just spam all of the flash. You should be standing all the way up there and just shooting down into the Leviathan. That's the reason I have volatile velocity, because I don't know if standing all the way up there I'm able to reach the Leviathan. So I'm safe to know that I will be hitting enemies if I have volatile velocity, because the range is more than enough. So that's the reason I use volatile velocity with my Ice Age, because I do volunteer a lot of anchoring with the Uber 10 Leviathans, and I'm just shooting straight down while all of the gunslingers and the higher DPS people can just go ham into the Leviathan, while I'm just standing all the way up there shooting down on the Leviathan and keeping aggro. That's pretty much the anchoring tactic in a nutshell. And yeah, if you haven't tried it out, I would suggest just try it out, because it actually just makes the Uber 10 Leviathan way more organized and way easier just to deal with the Uber 10 Leviathan. And yeah, that's pretty much the anchoring tactic. I would recommend a lot of people to try it out. And all of the other people who are not doing the anchoring or just standing all the way back, make sure to go as hard on DPS as possible. So just make sure to use as many flashes as you can, then respawn, then come back. So don't just stand there and reserve all of your pots. Just make sure to go as hard as possible on DPS, because the anchoring, if you're not going anywhere close to the Leviathan is not going to move from that place like at all. So make sure to, if you're one of those other players who are just standing below and just going DPS, do not get close to the Leviathan, because otherwise the Leviathan is going to retarget towards the other person, and yeah, that's going to be a little bit more tougher. So make sure to, if you're anchoring, make sure to do not spam as many flashes as possible. Make sure to stay there and never respawn, because otherwise the Leviathan is going to aggro towards another player. And yeah, just make sure the other players just go as hard as possible in DPS. And yeah, that's pretty much all of the anchoring tactic, and the reason I use volatile velocity on my Ice Age, because I do volunteer a lot. Now moving on into my gear. So my gear will be the same as a speedrun type build. So you should be using attack speed, critical damage, all pieces of gear, because you want to dish out as high a DPS as possible. So you want to be as best DPS as you can on Ice Age, whatever class that you're using. So you should be using the highest DPS possible. But unlike speedruns, that you should be using, like going extremely hard on emblems and allies just to kill the Leviathan as fast as possible. That is the reason I'm using this combination, but I'll explain that in a little bit. But as far as the other one, you should be using the best sustained DPS that you can, which is going to be attack speed, critical damage, and magic damage on face, and that's it, and critical hit on weapon if you need. I use Magify and Stellar 5 Ring. I should be using Energy Regen if I want to spend something like Ice Crush when I'm not in ultimate ability, but it's whatever at this point. So I use Magifying Ring for my Leviathan build, so you can use whichever you want. I just use Magifying because whatever is the only ring that I had. I have plenty of magic damage ring, but most of them, well, pretty much all of them are either Magifying or critical hit, and I don't need them. So yeah, make sure to have a torch, the best torch that you can if you're dealing out with Leviathan. Again, light is the most important thing possible for Leviathans, and yeah. I also am using Chronomancer Cusely. There's a reason why I'm using the Chronomancer Cusely instead of like the Primary Water Dragon Pop. The ultimate ability on Ice Age only lasts for 5 seconds. While the ultimate ability on Ice Age lasts for 5 seconds, it means that I need to be using much more flasks to maintain the ultimate ability. With the Chronomancer Cusely, it allows me to maintain ultimate ability with one less flask compared to like the Primary Water Dragon Pop. The Primary Water Dragon Pop, yeah, I had to use, I believe it's like 4 flasks, I don't remember how much it is. But with the Chronomancer Cusely, I am allowed to use one less flask per ultimate ability. So it is way much more like efficient for me as an Ice Age. But you know, if you're a gunslinger, then you don't need to. But for me as an Ice Age, I personally use Chronomancer Cusely because of the ultimate abilities. Also, I should be using the one-shot bunch per little food, but I don't do a whole lot of Leviathan, like I mentioned. For those who don't know, I recently reached 750 total mastery, and I was grinding much more Uber 10 than Leviathan, so I wasn't doing Leviathans a whole bunch. So I just didn't do food. Arcane Emblem, damage, I want to dish out as much damage as possible. Death-defying because for the most part, again, I'm the anchoring type person, so I just don't want to die by random stuff, and yeah, I just have this as a safe option. And yeah, I know that the Uber 10 Leviathan kills one shot even through death-defying, but again, if I'm anchoring, I'm not taking that. So yeah, that's the reason I'm using death-defying. It's just a safe option. I could be using the Bandolier, but whatever, I just use this because why not? And Chronomatic Emblem, again, you shouldn't be using Evil Eye Emblem on ultimate ability based characters like like this character or Gunslinger. You should be using Chronomatic Emblem because you want to use as much ultimate ability as possible. This is not like speedruns you can kill Dota Demon within 10 seconds. This you cannot kill Leviathans in 10 seconds, that's just impossible. So you should be using Chronomatic Emblem and just keep using ultimate ability as much as you can. And yeah, that's the reason I'm using Chronomatic Emblem. And the Mountain Cavalry Knight subclass. The reason I'm using the Mountain Cavalry Knight subclass instead of using something like the Luna Lancer subclass. The Luna Lancer subclass, it is very good for gunslingers. For Ice Age, it's not that good because the ultimate ability on Ice Age, for those who don't know, you're seeing right over here, I'm already shooting at well over 1000% attack speed. That is way past maximum attack speed, so yeah, there's no point in just using the Luna Lancer subclass if you just want it for the extra attack speed. So there's no point. For the Gunslinger, it's way better because the Gunslinger's ultimate ability actually reduces attack speed by 25%, so it benefits greatly from the Luna Lancer subclass. But as an Ice Age, you don't need to. You already just use the ultimate ability, you're already shooting at max attack speed. There's no point in just using the Luna Lancer subclass, so I just use the Knight subclass for the extra flash so I can just get as much ultimate ability as possible before respawning. And yeah, that's the reasoning I do use this one, and it does help out quite a lot, especially on the Uber 9 and Uber 8, because whenever I'm doing like the Uber 9, Uber 8, I always end up with like 5-6 flasks, which is the exactly the same amount that I get from the Knight subclass, so it is way better. As in Ice Age, I personally just use the Mountain Cavalry Knight subclass. So yes, that is everything regarding all of my build, like my Uber 10 Leviathan build. You're seeing right now that I'm nowhere near max power rank. I still am missing like a lot of damage. For those who don't know, I did mention it on my 750 mastery video. I did lose one of my fully augmented gem, which was a fully augmented for this character in particular. This one is a new gem. I had an older gem, but this one is a new gem, which I actually just got a new gem and fully augmented this one, at least the light portion. But I had a fully augmented gem which got deleted because of the server issues. And yeah, so that is the reasoning why I have way lower power rank than I should. I should be at the same power rank as my Revenant, which is 33.8, which is max power rank, or 33.9 should be a better one, but yeah, it's whatever. I was pretty salty about it, but at the same time, like, whatever. There's no point in just getting extremely upset about it. I can just grind it out and just get it all over again. So yeah, and yeah, that is all for today. Thank you for watching. Thank you for checking out as always. If you want to copy this build for yourself, feel free to do so. I don't know why I have so much struggle just saying that. I don't know what's wrong with me. But thank you for watching. Thank you for checking out as always. Leave a like if you want to help the channel grow. Subscribe if you want to see more content like this. And that is all for today. Once again, thank you for watching, and I hope to see you next time. Take care and keep on hunting. And good luck in building your character. See ya.